Printing money is bad,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's inflationary.
Mm-hmm.
But borrowing printed money is insane.
Jim in Denver writes, can you explain how Bill Clinton ran a surplus under his term in office? Was there some magic accounting, having a dispute with a friend about the debt under each president from the time of FDR?
Okay, so when Ronald Reagan was in office, he appointed Alan Greenspan to the Greenspan Commission.
Yes, he did.
And the Greenspan Commission examined the benefits program and said, hey, you have a major problem here. We have to raise taxes. If we don't, by 2010, the Social Security Trust Fund will be completely empty. There will be no money left, and any benefits that you pay will have to come out of the general treasury, and there won't be enough tax revenues to pay those. So in 1986, we got TEFRA, which was the largest single tax increase in history. It increased payroll taxes to 15.1%, 7.5% for the employer, 7.5% for the employee, and it called for that money to be set aside in a trust fund, which it was. By 1993, when Mr. Clinton took office, we had already developed a surplus of nearly $2 trillion, trillion dollars. Mr. Clinton simply borrowed every single penny of it and put it into the Treasury and then used that to balance the budget.
That rascal.
And it stayed like that, of course, until the present, where all of the money in the Social Security Trust Fund has been diverted. In fact, that chart that you mentioned about government revenues, where they come from,
Yeah.
you notice they included and counted excise and payroll taxes as if they weren't separate. If they weren't dedicated to a separate program, Social Security, that money was shown as federal tax revenue.
Yeah, they put
and
it
that's
right
what
in
they
there.
do.
They're not
So
hiding that.
it prompted me to write Uncle Sam Cooks the Books. That's what prompted that book, because you can't count that money twice, and that's what they did. So into the Social Security Trust Fund it would come. There's $2 trillion in the Social Security Trust Fund, and then the government operating on a cash basis says, we're going to borrow that $2 trillion and count it as revenue. And that's what they did. So there's $2 trillion in the Social Security Trust Fund in IOUs and $2 trillion in the General Treasury in real money, both rooted from the same $2 trillion. That's where Uncle Sam Cooks the Books came from.
Hence the name of your book.
And it's 13, 14 years old, but it was all done under the Clinton presidency. And in fact, I was writing the newsletter then, and no disrespect to the office of president, but I literally called Bill Clinton a liar when he came out and made that circle and tried to tell us, that's it, debt's paid.
Debt's paid.
The debt and the deficit are two different things. Yes, he zeroed out the deficit by borrowing all of the money from the 170 different trust funds maintained by the government, but no, he did not pay the national debt, and he certainly didn't balance the budget. He did so, if he did so, it was with accounting practices that would have me thrown in jail if I did it. And any company in America was operating on an accrual basis for you accountants out there, whereas the federal government was operating on a cash basis. So it didn't matter where the money came from. If it was incoming, it was revenue. If it was outgoing, it was expense. And they didn't have to count anything beyond the year in which they were counting. Where in accrual basis, you might have to factor in your long-term debt and all this sort of thing. None of that was considered when Bill Clinton reported to us a zero deficit. And if you recall the surplus discussion, what shall we spend the surplus on?
Right.
How about we pay off some of the national debt? No. We need to build roads and bridges and help our children. It was the biggest farce ever. Bill Clinton never balanced the budget. What he did was accounting gimmickry.